As a Minister of Public Safety, I have a responsibility to speak candidly about the nature of the terrorist threats facing Canadians. I also have a responsibility to engage Canadians in an open discussion about the challenges we face in continuing to enhance this country's safety and security. As such, I'm glad to have the chance to be here today to discuss this very important subject. As you are all likely aware, this year is the 25th anniversary of the tragic events involving Air India Flight 182. On June 23, 1985, 329 people were killed, mostly Canadians. On that tragic day in 1985, we witnessed what was and remains the single worst act of terrorism against Canadian citizens. The bombing of Air India Flight 182 off the coast of Ireland, a bomb planted in Canada, showed us and the rest of the world the lengths that terrorists will go to further their goals. It also demonstrated the need for strong resolve in combating terrorism. Earlier this summer, Commissioner John Major provided us with a sober appraisal of what happened in 1985, and our government remains thankful for his work as we continue to review his findings and recommendations. This sober anniversary is a strong reminder that the terrorist threat is real and that Canada is not immune. Terrorists seek to attack and destroy the very fabric of what freedom-loving countries such as Canada stand for. To accomplish their goal, they attempt to strike fear into citizens by means of death and destruction. As I said, Canada is not immune from terrorism. Since the Air India tragedy, 24 Canadians have died in terrorist attacks 24 Canadians died in the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. Canadians were also killed in terrorist attacks in Bali in 2002 and in Mumbai in 2008. Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups have attacked Canadian companies in Algeria and Yemen. There have been several high-profile terrorist kidnappings of Canadians. As you're aware, Robert Fowler and Louis Gay were kidnapped in Niger in December 2008 and held hostage for more than 4 months. Amanda Linout and her Australian colleague Nigel Brennan were freed in late 2009 after being held hostage in Somalia for 15 months. The terrorist threat has not gone away. Last Christmas, we witnessed an attempt to bomb a Northwest Airlines flight from Amsterdam to Detroit. The plane briefly flew over Canadian airspace during the flight. Had the bomb successfully detonated at that time, Canada may well have fallen victim to the worst terrorist event since the Air India bombing. Most recently, this past May, there was an attempt to explode a bomb in Times Square, New York City. An area of increasing concern and focus for me and Public Safety Canada is the practice of terrorist groups luring Westerners to fight in foreign countries. Many of you have heard of the recruiting efforts by groups like Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group operating in Somalia. Al-Shabaab uses the internet to encourage young men to leave their homes to engage in terrorist activities in Somalia and then provides training for them in Somalia. Its propaganda videos are among the most violent and explicit available online. Also of increasing concern here in Canada is radicalization and its potential for violence. There are homegrown Islamists and other extremists here in Canada. Perhaps the best illustration of this is the Toronto 18 terrorist cell, which was disrupted in 2006. Zakaria Amara, one of the leaders of the Toronto 18, planned what he called the Battle of Toronto, in which truck bombs would be detonated in the downtown area, destroying the Toronto Stock Exchange and the CSIS regional office, and causing multiple deaths and injuries. They had also planned to detonate a bomb at a military base. Among other things, the group had listened to an internet video by Anwar al-Awlaki, the radical cleric who has been connected with 3 of the 9/11 hijackers, with a U.S. Army major who killed 13 people and injured dozens of others in the shooting spree at Fort Hood, Texas, and as well with the individual who tried to bomb the Northwest Airlines flight on Christmas Day 2009. One of the men ordered 3 tons of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, an ingredient often used in explosives. For comparison's sake, the Oklahoma City bombing, which killed 168 individuals, injured another 680 people, and caused more than $650 million in damage to surrounding buildings, used about 1 ton of fertilizer. 11 of the Toronto 18 have now been convicted under the terrorism provisions of the Criminal Code. I'd like to pause to say that in this country it is the right of all Canadians to hold and discuss a wide range of beliefs. That is what makes our country great, and disagreement and debate are the signs of a healthy democracy. But what we are seeing here is not about disagreement and debate. Our concern is with extremist ideologies that lead individuals to espouse or engage in violence. These individuals reject the values on which our country is based, and they must be stopped. We also need to understand that there is a risk of violent extremism taking root in a number of communities in Canada. The speed of indoctrination and radicalization of young Canadians makes it challenging for law enforcement and intelligence agencies to keep up. One of the ways that terrorist groups radicalize individuals to violence is through the internet. Terrorist-affiliated websites contain extremist materials and instructions on a wide range of operational techniques, from how to make explosive devices to techniques for avoiding surveillance by law enforcement and intelligence agencies. The same websites also make it easier for terrorists to communicate with one another. We are aware that there are certain websites based in Canada that support or promote terrorist violence, just as there are Canadians who are involved in the production of these sites. We saw this, for example, in the conviction of Saeed Namouth in late 2009 for his role in producing an internet video warning Germany and Austria that they would be target of terrorist attacks if they failed to withdraw their troops from Afghanistan. While only a small fraction of a percentage of our population is engaged in activities that pose a security threat, we need to thwart such threats before that they can be carried out. Another issue we're increasingly having to confront is that of marine human smuggling. This is a problem that our allies, the Australians, have been dealing with for years, but one that is emerging as a concern for Canada and Canadians. The problem of human smuggling and illegal migration is a serious one, and the abuse of our immigration system is something that our government will not tolerate. There is reason to believe that a listed terrorist entity, the LTTE, may be involved in organizing and carrying out this activity. The LTTE, I remind you, is an organization that has engaged in the widespread use of suicide bombings against civilian targets in Sri Lanka, and used extortion and intimidation to raise funds within the Canadian Tamil community. So while our government believes in offering protection to genuine refugees, it is imperative that we prevent supporters and members of a terrorist organization from abusing Canada's refugee system. We believe it is essential that our border and law enforcement agencies have the physical and legal means to prevent illegal migration and human smuggling, and to identify those individuals coming to Canada who have been involved in terrorist activity or are members of a terrorist group. And we are acting to provide officials with the various tools they need to do this successfully.